Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Speedy's Garage YouTube channel. Those of you that are channel members saw Goblin go run a pretty good rip at Beach Bend Raceway a few days ago. Ran into a little problem, and I want to thank Mike at OST Dyno as well as Z from ZH Tunes. They both sort of gave me some tips, and I think I've got the problem solved, and now I'm probably going to pick up, I'm going to guess at least 2/10. I ran into that issue. So if you're a channel member, you saw all of that. Tonight, we're going to talk about this latest car. We've got kind of a double feature this week. They released 2 teasers on whatever this number 7 last call is supposed to be, and I thought I'd give you a few of my thoughts. We're going to find out in a couple of days who's been kind of right about the predictions. I've been getting a lot of, I shouldn't say getting, but having a lot of interaction and conversation over on hellcatforum.org, and it's been kind of a fun thread that we've had going over there speculating about everything. And there's some pretty good sleuths over there who've come up with some build sheets from some of the pilot cars even that were part of this. Some of the guys are up in Michigan and have seen them running around. Let's get right into it. So first I'm going to catch you up. I'm going to play all the little short clips of the teasers that we've gotten so far. Okay, so you saw there the first one starts off, I think it was called Run and Hide, play on Jekyll and Hyde. Obviously it's the Leprechaun, which I still don't quite understand the marketing behind that other than it's March and the car's getting released around St. Patrick's Day. I don't know that it's going to have anything to do with the actual name of it. Some people are speculating it's going to be called the Goblin, which would be sort of weird. But the Leprechaun thing's been a little bit strange, but the Easter eggs that they put in the teasers have been fun, at least for me, to try to figure out. So he starts off with the IV, which we pretty much everybody agrees is going to be E85. So that jacks him up into like a, more jacked up Leprechaun. He gets muscular and grows. And then density, we got density matters. So the larger elf and the smaller elf are on a scale, and the larger one makes the scale tip in his direction. We saw 7.1 pounds on that. I'm still going to say that has to do with boost pressure and how much more boost the engine is going to see over, I'm going to say, a red eye. I think it's going to make around 20 to 21 pounds of boost. So that's what I'm going to go with on that. The next one we saw was where the Leprechaun's kind of blowing through a breathalyzer. It's really an anemometer, however you say it, and it measures wind speed. There was a calculation in there, 105 at 2.98 times 3.02. Lots of speculation on what that means. Maybe it has 2 meanings. 105, a lot of people thought was the E85 content of the fuel. Then the calculation, maybe a 8.996 ET at the drag strip, which there was some information out there that Dodge was working on a high 8-second car, which maybe, I don't know. That's going to be running pretty fast, but I know how fast mine is and how much power it makes, and it's in the ballpark. So I think it's possible depending on the weight of the car. The other theories were around airflow, and that maybe makes more sense with it being an anemometer. I'm never going to say that right, but it's like a kestrel, right? So it's reading the air. The 105 could have been throttle body size, 105 millimeter. The 2.98, maybe the supercharger displacement, because it's a 3-liter supercharger is what they call it, but 2.98 is probably close enough if you took exact measurements. And then 3.02, perhaps that's the pulley diameter on the supercharger. I don't know. 1582 was shown on the screen, and lots of speculation on what that might be. I believe that's probably cubic feet per minute and has something to do with airflow through the motor now. Since the anemometer was kind of the big clue there. So the airflow stuff sort of makes more sense to me than maybe some of the other theories out there. Then we get the Hemivice, which is the Leprechaun pounding away with the jackhammer. And they obviously show the 8 cylinders in the jackhammer, so we know it's an 8-cylinder engine. If you look closely, some people think those balls that he's pounding on are molecules. I think they're pistons. If you look, you can actually see, it looks like the reflection of a rod maybe in the reflection of some of those, and he's beating away on it, and the camera zooms in and it shows 2538 psi. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the cylinder pressures, the max engine cylinder pressures that the engine is designed for. And if we go back and look up information on the Demon was 1958. So if you do some quick math on that, it's about a 30% increase. If you take, and I'm gonna start doing some calculation here, but not trying to make this too boring. If you take the Demon's maximum power with the crate at 840 horsepower, and you multiply that times an additional 30%, so like 1.3, you come out to 1,088 horsepower. Now, I'm not saying 2538 equals 1,088 horsepower, and I'm not saying 1958 in the Demon equals 840. What I'm saying is those two engines, they were designed to handle that much cylinder pressure. Whether that's the actual or not, that was the design specification. Using that as the logic for the horsepower math, 840 times, it was actually 1.296 if you want to get exact, you come out with 1,088 horsepower. Why is that important? Well, Dodge is coming out with those crate engines that we've talked about a couple of times, the A170 and the I think it's the C170. So the A170 is aluminum and the C170 is cast iron. If they're going all out on this deal and want to make it the top dog, I would imagine it's going to have the A170, the aluminum block engine in it. It's going to be the flex fuel engine because we saw the Leprechaun with the IV. That A170 crate engine is set up for 1,100 horsepower, and that's mighty close to the 1088, my math suggests. So I think that's probably going to be the engine that's going to go in it, and I think they'll use the aluminum one to save the 100 pounds or so over cast iron. If it's going to be top dog, why not? The other thing I've heard through the grapevine is there might be carbon fiber wheels for the car. I don't know if it's going to come with them on it or they're going to be in like a crate or special package that comes with the car, but that would free up a ton of rotational mass and weight and would allow it to accelerate much quicker. Finally, there's some build sheets actually floating around out there from some of what they call the pilot cars. They built, I can't remember how many of them, some number, I'm not even going to try to say because I'll get it wrong, but they put the cars out and they're like the test cars. They're to test the build process, probably down the assembly line, and then some of the engineers probably drove them around to test various things on them. And if you look at these build sheets, some of it's weird stuff, like the trunk light delete, which wouldn't make any sense. I mean, the LED probably didn't weigh anything. The bright pedals were deleted. They had cloth seats. But since they're pilot cars, maybe that they just did those cheap options on them because they're going to get destroyed in the end anyway. They're not going to be around. The big things I saw that stood out to me is that kept calling out CP. Those two letters were called out as options. So they had CP suspension, it had CP braking, and it had CP badges. So the CP, I'm going to call it corn power just for fun, but that CP obviously is indicative of something. The build sheet on these actually had aluminum wheels, but those carbon fiber ones, like I said, could be in a package, or they just used aluminum because they didn't want to risk breaking the carbon fiber wheels on their test cars. The other big thing I saw, other big things, 240 millimeter rear axle. So that's bigger. The Demon and the Red Eye have 230. So 240 millimeter rear axle. Other thing I saw, 6.2 liter supercharged high output engine. A lot of people have speculated that 7.1 on that scale had to do with 7.1 liter 426 or something like that. I don't think so. I think it's going to be that A170, and it calls it out there, 6.2 liter supercharged high output engine, 3.09 gear ratio. It called it also a wide body, but then it specifically called out rear body flares. And I'm going to show you a picture here that some of the other guys on the hellcatforum.org found. There was a test car running around Michigan with manufacturer plates on it. It only had flares on the back. I don't know how that will look for like a car that you're not just drag racing and just, you just want the skinnies on the front and the wide ones on the back. I think it would look a little odd without it being symmetrical, but we'll have to see. But there is a picture of one floating around out there, and that particular car supposedly had a roll cage or a roll bar, and it had very lightweight racing seats in it. So again, if they're going for that lightweight, maybe it's going to have some kind of seat option or something along those lines. And finally, we got the last teaser. Like I said, this week was kind of a double feature, and it was called Tripwire. And you have the leprechaun jumping out of a helicopter, and he's fallen, and he looks at his watch, and it's telling him a speed, and it hits 140, and he makes a face like he's not satisfied with that, does kind of an Iron Man thing, and shoots off towards the Las Vegas Strip. Well, obviously that's a reference to the Demon's published quarter mile time when it set the record. It ran a 9:65 at 140 miles an hour, and what they're telling us there is this car is going to be much faster than the Demon. So that's going to get pretty interesting, and obviously it's getting announced in Vegas next week, so that was an obvious clue. But Tripwire, I don't know where the name for that would come from. Tripwire, I don't know, but trans brake was also included on the build sheet. The cool down was also included. So some of the normal stuff that was from the Demon, so some of that's obviously carrying over. There's all of our clues. Now we just got to wait a couple of days and find out exactly what this car is going to be. I'm pretty confident in saying it's going to have the A8 automatic. It's going to have the 309 rear axle ratio, the 240 millimeter axle size. The body flares I'm not sure about. I'm very confident it's going to have either the A170 or C170 motor. If I was Dodge and I'm going all out, I'm putting the A170 in there, and it's going to be over 1,000 horsepower. That's my prediction. We're going to find out in a couple of days who has been right. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's at Speedy's_garage, as well as the website, www.speedysgarage.net. And hopefully, I'll see you out there. Goldman Go's about to go for another test. He's going to go fast.